When Nissan first introduced the GT-R back in 2009, it quickly changed our perception on what a supercar was supposed to deliver in terms of all-out performance. Now, 8 years is a long time to be on the market, and since then, the company has made steady updates to the GT-R, with 2017 being the most thorough. This week, I'm testing out the 2017 GT-R Nismo. Let's see if it truly lives up to the Godzilla nickname. So if you guys have followed the channel pretty closely, you'll know that the GT-R has pretty much eluded me ever since this car came out. I haven't actually done a full review on this car. I have driven it a couple times, but this is my first time actually spending a couple hours with it, showing you guys a full video. And you can see it doesn't really look too different from the car that was introduced back in 2009. Nissan had made updates to the car pretty much every year, with 2017 being the most thorough. You can see updated headlights. These are full LED headlights that are standard on every GT-R. The Nismo model gives you a specific look. It's got authentic carbon fiber all over the front end. It's got a carbon fiber front splitter, unique grille. The V-Motion grille was grafted onto the GT-R for 2017, kind of going with the rest of the Nissan family in terms of the design language. Now, in terms of a supercar, the GT-R doesn't really have the looks that we kind of expect. In terms of being low and wide, this vehicle sits up pretty high. It's honestly pretty big. Its biggest competitor, or at least when this car first came out, was the Porsche 911, and the Porsche is a lot lower, a lot smaller. This, compared to an NSX, is a lot bigger and taller, so it hasn't always had a reputation for being a good-looking car, but I love the changes that Nissan has made, especially for this Nismo version. Now, the Nismo comes with these specific wheels. These are 20-inch Ray wheels. They're lightweight, they're forged, they're very strong. All Nismos will come with the 6-piston Brembo brakes with steel rotors about 15.5 inches in diameter. Carbon fiber rotors are not available on this car, which is surprising considering this is the track model. The track model, or at least the Nismo, also includes a Nismo-specific track-tuned suspension that kind of lowers it, it hunkers it down. Now, looking around the sides here, I really like the white exterior. This is kind of the Nismo-specific color, the white exterior with the black mirrors, the red accents. It certainly looks still impressive, although if you kind of park it next to like an NSX or a Lamborghini Huracan, this is going to kind of look a little bit awkward from certain angles, but I think that the GT-R still has its place, and it definitely deserves that Godzilla name. Now, if you follow me over to the rear, Nissan didn't really change too much with the design. They updated the taillights. They're still full LED. The Nismo gives you this really insane carbon fiber wing that actually adds downforce, because this model is designed to be, put on the track and really put to its paces. Now, at the lower end here of the rear valence, you can see more carbon fiber that's authentic. That's part of the Nismo package. You have quad exhaust, which the GT-R, it sounds good, but really it's not going to replace a V8 that you get on some competitors or the V10s and stuff, but it's an interesting car. I think it's aged pretty well, and I'll be really curious to see what Nissan does to the GT-R when they finally redesign it. The company seems to be putting their supercars kind of on hold as they focus on electric cars, but I would really love to see them come out with an all-new GT-R to go head-to-head with the new NSX. Now, all GT-Rs will come with Nissan's smart key access system with push-button start. You can see here is the current Nissan key fob. I've complained in the past saying that Nissan needs to replace it. Honestly, it feels good in your hands. It's small. It feels high quality. It's just, I wish that the company would update it just to kind of go with times. The GT-R specific key has the emblem there instead of the Nissan logo, so that's nice. To lock the door, just push the button here, or you can also use the button on the door handles. But when you come up to the vehicle, you can see there's no door handles that actually pop out. They're kind of flush here for aerodynamics. To unlock it, you just touch the button here, it unlocks it, and then you have to push here and then pull this to open the door. Now, looking at the inside of the GT-R, you can see Nissan made pretty heavy updates for 2017, with most of it being the dashboard and the steering wheel. The seats are pretty much the same. They are Nismo specific, of course. They're Recaros. They have red suede Alcantara inserts with some stitching. I really find the seat controls to be very unique in the GT-R as well. It's just a rotary dial here that you kind of just manipulate and move around and then twist here for the recline. It's interesting. It took me some getting used to. The front of the seat actually lifts up and down, but it's a separate button here. Your heated seat controls are there. The seats are actually very comfortable. They hold you in place nicely. Now, stepping inside the interior, the GTR definitely doesn't feel as low as some of this car's competitors. You notice that right away. It feels honestly like a sedan, to be honest, which is not what you typically want, although it does make this car maybe a little bit easier to live with. Now, when you shut the door sounds a little tinny, if I'm being honest, but again, it's an older design for this car, so you kind of expect that. Now, as I said before, push button start is standard. The button to start the engine is here. Just put your foot on the brake and then push this button here to fire it up. Now, the engine has a very unique noise to it for sure. It also has a pretty low red line there, or at least it doesn't let you rev it up very high when you're sitting in park, but I'm not sure if I like the engine noise, if I'm being honest. It's a little interesting, but we'll go into the test drive later. It just doesn't sound as nice as the V10s, you know, from Audi, or the V8s you get from the AMG, or even the 6-cylinder in the Porsches. They sound much more interesting than here. But looking at the interior, you can see Nissan has updated it pretty heavily. They reduced the amount of buttons in here for 2017. There used to be like over 25. Now there's only 11 because they replaced it with knobs. The materials in here are good though. There's some nice, you know, suede Alcantara on the dash, which is actually really nice. There's stitching everywhere, stitching here, stitching there. There's some more stitching right here. It's soft touch here on the upper door panels. The windows are one touch automatic for both, which is definitely nice to have. The steering wheel also, it's basically the same steering wheel that I showed you in the Infiniti Q60. It's a nice steering wheel. It's got these paddles that are magnesium that are mounted on the wheel now instead of the column, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. I preferred the steering wheel mounted paddles as opposed to on the column mounted paddles as opposed to on the wheel, because you lose track of these while you're driving. Now you can see the Nismo gives you these specific gauges with the red. They are, you know, kind of dated looking, but they definitely show you all the information you need to see. Now, looking over here on the screen, this is basically the Nissan head unit that we all know, with a couple of GTR specific things here. You can see Nissan really needs to kind of redo their infotainment system. The touch response is not bad. It certainly gets the job done. The nav system here is probably the oldest in this car. Like, I really do not like the way the map looks. When you look at the map, it looks like 2005. So Nissan needs to work on this. You're going to find this map display in a lot of Infiniti products as well. Now, when you put the vehicle into reverse, Nissan does give you a backup camera. It's kind of crunchy in the way it looks. It has distance markers. It also has trajectory, which is also good. You can't really see too well out of the back with that wing kind of taking up all of your space. Now, looking at the rest of the head unit here, you can see when you push the function display, it shows you a Nissan GTR specific gauge with you know, your oil temperature, your oil pressure, your boost. You can kind of change the display based on pushing these little buttons here that shows you your G-forces, even more controls. It's really nice. It's almost like very video game like. That's what the GTR is very much known for. So it's nice to see that the company's kept that. I mean, I would love to see an all-new head unit in the next generation car, but you know, what they've done over the years is basically the best they can do, so it's not bad. Looking down here, you can see dual zone climate control is standard. Here are your drive mode selectors. There's always been 3 switches here. This controls your traction control, your suspension, and then your rear diff. The car defaults to its normal setting. There's a comfort setting. You can actually turn off the stability control. And then accessing sport involves you having to flip all these switches to R mode and hold it, and that'll engage the sport mode and the launch control if you guys want to try that. Now, the shifter is definitely interesting. This controls the 6-speed dual clutch automated manual. It has a, you know, PRN and no D, just an A or a manual mode. When it's in park, it's in this position. Come over here, it's in reverse. Come back, that's 1 notch, it goes to neutral. Pull back, that's automatic, and then go over to the left. It'll click back, that's manual mode, and it'll tell you in the display whether it's in manual or automatic mode. And you can kind of control it via the paddles here. There is no control from the lever down here, which is fine. The paddles are what I would prefer to use anyways. I like all the carbon fiber down here. If you don't want to touch the screen, you can also use this little rotary knob here as part of the Nissan, you know, head unit infotainment system that I've shown you in some Infiniti products, which is definitely nice. They give you the choice. The center console here is nice and padded. It doesn't move forward or adjust, but I find that it's at a good angle for me. There is some nice storage in there with 2 USB ports as well as an aux port. The GTR does give you a glove compartment down here, which is a pretty small size. It's lined with felt. It's damped. There's no sunroof available on this car, of course. Instead, you have a really nice suede Alcantara headliner, and the GTR does give you back seats, so it's a 2+2, but as you can see, I'm not even gonna get back there. The back seats are very, very tight, and you really only want to put your stuff in that back seat. So I imagine most of you, if you actually own a GTR, this probably isn't your only car, but if it is, the trunk is actually not bad. You can see it's got a traditional trunk, it's not a hatch, and you're looking at around 8.4 cubic feet of space, which is honestly a little more than what you get at like a Roadster, like a Mazda Miata. So it's not bad. It's very deep. It goes in pretty far. So if you actually did need to go grocery shopping, the GTR could actually pull it off. So with any GTR, what's going on underneath the hood is what's really important. And Nissan hasn't really changed too much underneath the hood. The Nismo has a specifically tuned engine. Now, all GTRs will have the 3.8 liter twin turbo V6 as part of the VRDE or 38DE TT engine family. It actually doesn't have direct injection. It's kind of getting a little old school. Now, these engines are all hand assembled at the factory, so that's what makes the GTR so special and so expensive. And in this model, it produces 600 horsepower from just 3.8 liters, which is pretty good. Now, the standard GTR now makes 565, so you get about 35 more horsepower with the Nismo package. Now, all GTRs, of course, are all-wheel drive. They weigh just under 4,000 pounds, so a relatively heavy supercar. And they all go out through a 6-speed dual clutch transmission, an automated manual, which is kind of getting a little behind the times. Everyone's going to a 7, 8, and 9-speed transmission. Now, fuel economy, in case you guys care, it's rated at 16 city, 22 on the highway. Please put premium gas in it. This is a supercar, so you want to make sure you feed it the good stuff. But let's get out on the road. You guys have been waiting, and let's see how it all drives. So I seriously have waited a long time to show you guys a GTR. It's not because I haven't wanted to, but it's hard to get a hold of this vehicle, to be honest. So I'm really happy to finally be showing you guys the Nismo. Let's get out there and see how it performs. And the first thing I'm noticing, the engine has a really nasty sounding rattle when you first start it. I don't know if it's just maybe my particular tester. It's lived a hard life. It's a press car. But the engine doesn't sound all that great when you first start it up. It kind of has that typical, it sounds like a VQ motor, honestly, even though this is the VR. But first settling off in the GTR, you can see putting it into drive or its automatic setting and its dual clutch, I'm immediately noticing how firm the suspension is in this car. It's just really, really harsh. I mean, the Nismo version is the track tuned one, so it doesn't really surprise me. But maybe it'll impress me out on the road. Holy f***! No. So, the turbo lag in this car is really, really bad. But once the turbo kicks in, this thing goes like bonkers. And seriously, it feels like nobody's home until about 3,000 RPM when the car just wakes the f*** up. Holy shit! Oh, no way! Wow. This thing is still incredibly fast for how old it is. Wow. Let me get my thoughts together. My God, and honestly, I have it in its normal setting there. We need to try the R Plus mode here and see if I can actually do a quick acceleration run with the launch control, but oh my God. Now, when you're just kind of settling in, the GTR the Nismo version is not an easy car to daily drive in terms of its comfort. This is a very stiff car. Now I'm gonna put the shocks into comfort setting and see if it actually evens out or mellows out, and not really. This car has like no body lean. It's so stiff. You feel every aspect of the road. It's noisy too. You hear a lot of road noise. The tires are so sticky. They just pick up all the debris and you literally hear all the noise. It's just a very visceral experience. But there's also a little bit of disconnectedness from when you're behind the wheel. The steering, for example, is so quick, but it's a little bit on the numb side. It just doesn't have much feel. It feels like I'm playing a video game, which is what the GTR has kind of always been. The Nismo version, you know, compared to the GTR Premium I drove a few months ago, which I never got a chance to film, I didn't have much time with it, it feels so hardcore. So really, I would go for the Premium model. Oh, if you don't plan to track this thing all the time, seriously, bumps are not this car's friend. It does not like bumps. Just don't do it. It doesn't like the bumps. Now I'm gonna put it here into its R mode here and see if I can get the transmission is one area I want to criticize, because in automatic mode and comfort, it's awful. It's really slow and laggy at times. Oh, wow, it's so stiff in R+. You just find yourself kind of like annoyed every time it has to shift because it's so jerky. It's so slow, honestly. But when you put it into its manual mode here, flick it over to the left. Oh my goodness. This is just an incredibly stiff car. When it's in automatic mode, you know, it tries to shift like a regular automatic, but honestly, it's just really laggy, and it kind of shows you the weaknesses of a dual clutch from, you know, 8 years ago. Dual clutches have really come a long way, and the GTR's dual clutch is in need of an update. It definitely doesn't, it's not as great as the 7, 8, 9-speed transmissions that I've tested. It's pretty much the weakest link of this car. And it's just going to constantly remind you that it's an older design. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just technology has progressed and Nissan seriously needs to catch up. So to engage the launch control, you have to put it all into R+ mode, flick the transmission over into manual mode, hold the brake with your left foot hard on the gas, floor it. Oh! Oh my God! Holy shit! Where's the turbo lag? It disappeared! Oh my God! So, if you want to get rid of the turbo lag, initiate the launch control, because that was intoxicating. That was intense. That was probably one of the hardest launches I've ever felt in a production car. I'm freaking speechless. This car is so different in R+ mode, or in R mode, with all the manual when you're trying out the launch control. Oh my God. Oh, this is fantastic. I don't care about the harsh ride quality, honestly. Woo! It just eats up a back road like this. Oh my God. Woo! And honestly, the engine sounds better when you start really pushing it. It's just kind of when you're pussycatting this car along in its normal mode, it's not that great. You have to be driving this car at like 10 tenths, or maybe 8 tenths, to really appreciate the way this thing feels. But oh my God, the launch control in this car is so easy to use. I actually am getting an NSX next week to test for a week, and it's gonna be interesting to compare this to, but oh my God, this car, Godzilla, still lives up to the hype. When you're trying out the launch control and you're attacking some back roads, this thing grips for days, and I can see why it has the reputation it has. This is still a phenomenal driving car, even though it's pretty old. So you guys have waited a long time for me to show you a full review on a Nissan GTR, and I'm happy to show you guys the full-on track version, the Nismo. And after a couple of hours of driving it, I have to say the Godzilla still impresses. It's still one of the fastest supercars that you can buy for the money. It has a very impressive track-tuned suspension. It grips the road like anything, like nothing you've ever felt, really. And I can't imagine if I actually get one for a little bit longer, if I took this out on a track, it's a car that will literally break your back. If you guys remember, that happened to Jeremy Clarkson when he first tested this car back in 2009. So that brings me to the final aspect of the GTR, the price. This car, when it first came out back in 2009, was like in the mid-70s, and Nissan's been upping the price over the years. Now a GTR starts at just under $110,000 for a base premium model. If you guys want to go to the track edition, which is kind of like the premium with the suspension from the Nismo and some of the bits, that's around $127,000. The Nismo, it basically comes well equipped. This competes head-on with vehicles like the 911 Turbo S, an Audi R8 V10 Plus, and an Acura NSX. This car starts at $175,000. Add like $1,000 for the paint charge that my tester has, and you're looking at around $177,000. The destination charge for this car is $1,700. That's like literally one of the most expensive destination charges I've ever seen. But is it worth it? Does the car feel like that much money? Yes, it does. It's a little hard to swallow the price increase over the years, but that's kind of just what you're dealing with inflation. If you're going to compare it to the Porsche 911 Turbo S, that car can easily crest to 200 grand, and an NSX starts at around 158,000, easily over 200 grand if you guys option it up with everything, whereas this kind of comes standard. There's no options to pick. But with all that said, I really would love to see Nissan update the GTR, redesign it. They may even consider doing a hybrid thing like Acura did with the NSX. But if you guys are in the market for a supercar like this and don't necessarily need it to be the newest, the sexiest in terms of design, just like the idea of having Godzilla, you should certainly still put this one at the top of your list. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.